latest mass shooting in the United States. A transit employee opened fire on co-workers today at a rail yard in San Jose. Local authorities say the gunman killed 8 people before taking his own life. Multiple people were wounded. NPR's Eric Westervelt has the latest.
Police say the employee began shooting just after 6:30 local time at a light rail maintenance yard for the Valley Transportation Authority, or VTA, in San Jose. VTA employees are among the dead and wounded. San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo calls it a horrific and tragic day for the city and the transit agency.
And our heart pains for the families and the co-workers, because we know that so many are feeling deeply this loss of their loved ones and their friends.
Mayor Liccardo also says the suspect's house, loaded with ammunition, had been set on fire. Police say the bomb squad was called to the shooting scene amid concerns the shooter might have placed multiple explosive devices inside the VTA building. Eric Westervelt, NPR News.
This is the latest in a series of mass shootings this spring. Gunmen have also taken lives in Atlanta, Boulder, Shreveport, Austin, and Indianapolis. Leading U.S. government scientists are calling for a fuller investigation into the origins of the coronavirus outbreak in China. NPR's Jeff Brumfield reports that includes the possibility the virus came from a lab.
The epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak was the Chinese city of Wuhan. The city is also home to 2 Chinese infectious disease laboratories, and one of those laboratories was doing research on bat coronaviruses. During a Senate hearing today, Republicans repeatedly asked about the possibility that SARS-CoV-2 could have leaked from that lab. Anthony Fauci, the president's chief medical advisor, says he thinks the virus is more likely to have come from a natural source, but
no one knows, including me, 100% what the origin is the reason why we're in favor of further investigation.
Fauci and other researchers say they would like to see the World Health Organization embark on a more thorough investigation of the virus's origins. Jeff Brumfield, NPR News, Washington.
A decades-long effort to get corporations to take climate change more seriously delivered historic blows to oil giants today. A small hedge fund won enough shareholder backing to elect 2 of its candidates to ExxonMobil's board. And a court in The Hague is ordering Royal Dutch Shell to comply with carbon-reducing commitments in the 2015 Paris Climate Accord. Here's Terry Schultz.
The ruling requires Shell to cut its carbon emissions by 45% of 2019 levels by the year 2030, as contained in the UN climate agreement signed in Paris. The plaintiffs, led by environmental and human rights organizations, said that because the oil giant emits 9 times more CO2 than the entire country of the Netherlands, it must be included in efforts to curb carbon.
Royal Travel and Tours, this is Kendra.
It's a cell phone, so we can't really say it's ringing off the hook, but travel advisor Kendra Thornton is busier now than she's been in 15 months.
What we're seeing, it's just been an upward trajectory. As more and more people get vaccinated, we just have more people being comfortable with booking travel and planning travel.
Thornton runs Royal Travel and Tours in Chicago's northern suburbs and says most of her clients have been booking vacations to Florida's beaches, Hawaii, and other domestic destinations. But with much of Europe opening up soon, some are eager to go abroad.
We definitely have clients that the second this news came out were like, okay, I want to go to Portugal, I want to go to Greece, I want to go to Italy.
Those travelers will likely have to prove that they've been vaccinated, and as of now, that's a problem.
It's very confusing, and it's changing every minute right now.
Well, travelers can self-report their vaccination status by showing their COVID-19 vaccination card. Can you imagine the airport lines? Plus, there is no standard vaccination card, and they can be easily lost, damaged, or even forged, says Leonard Marcus, head of the Aviation Public Health Initiative at Harvard University.
We're basically counting on trust when the country is facing a trust deficit. So there's no way to verify that someone is in fact actually vaccinated. It's only their word that, yes, I'm vaccinated.
Marcus says there needs to be a better way.
There should be either government systems or private sector systems that are reliable that I can use to show to an airline that I've been vaccinated.
But there is no federal database tracking who's been vaccinated, and the Biden administration says it will not be issuing what some have dubbed vaccine passports. Some cities and states are considering them. New York already has the voluntary Excelsior Pass, but nearly a dozen other states controlled by Republicans are moving in the opposite direction, banning or restricting the use of any sort of vaccine passport or verification system. Again, Leonard Marcus.
This has become so politicized an issue it's very difficult for us as a country to do the right thing.
Nonetheless, a majority of Americans support the concept, according to Megan Brennan of the Gallup poll.
57% of Americans said that in order to travel by airplane, they would favor businesses requiring people to show proof that they were vaccinated.
With no uniform way for travelers to prove to foreign governments that they've been vaccinated, some airlines are trying to step up and develop smartphone apps that will tell customers exactly what documentation they need to provide to enter the country they're going to. Preston Peterson of American Airlines says their app is called Verifly.
A customer can submit their documentation, have it verified, and then they receive a green check mark or effectively an okay to travel status that we as an airline trust, the customer can trust, and then they know they're ready to go.
Other airlines are developing their own similar apps, and the International Air Transport Association has a more universal app called the Travel Pass that's being tested by at least 30 airlines globally. But it will likely take some time for travelers, airlines, and others to sort out exactly what will be accepted where as proof of vaccination. David Schaefer, NPR News, Chicago.
For more than a year, we have shared stories about people who have died of COVID-19 in the U.S. Today, the story of an Ohio couple who were childhood sweethearts.
They were Dick and Shirley Meek. Last December, the Meeks celebrated 70 years of marriage. Their grandson, Jesse Fisher, says the pandemic forced them to revise their plans for that milestone.
There was planned to be a big 70th anniversary celebration, and a year prior had started planning that. And then, of course, like the rest of the world, everything had to change.
Fisher remembers his grandfather as a gifted carpenter who built the home in which he and Shirley raised their 5 children. Fisher says Dick Meek was always ready to answer your questions and ask his own.
If it's something that he wanted to know more about, he loved to pick your brain.
And Shirley, Jesse Fisher's grandmother, made a real impression on him as a kid because of the job she held at Burger Chef for 25 years.
It's always exciting to go get fast food somewhere when you're a kid, but then to go in and have your grandma give it to you, that was even better.
Dick and Shirley Meek grew up about 1.5 miles from each other in East Central Ohio. They still lived in the area but traveled widely. In later years, they spent winters in Florida welcoming vacationing family and trekking through theme parks.
The Meeks had infrequent minor illnesses, but always made quick recoveries. This winter, they told their grown children, "We think we're getting colds," but then they tested positive for COVID-19. Still, given what happened before, the family was optimistic.
You were worried, but at the same time, in the back of your mind, it's like, oh, it'll be like it always is with them.
On January 8th, Dick and Shirley were admitted to a Columbus, Ohio hospital. Because of COVID restrictions, they were in separate rooms and a floor apart.
The family urged the staff to put Dick and Shirley together, and they did.
As they were dying, the staff played them a song Dick Meek had requested.
Like a flower that is blossomed in the dry barren sand.
As John Denver sang, "When the river meets the sea," Dick and Shirley held hands. Shirley's head rested on Dick's shoulder. They died within minutes of each other.
They were together so much throughout their marriage, throughout their lives together, that the idea of one of them surviving without the other, almost a harder thought than losing them both. It's a small solace for us, but I think if you ask them, they probably wouldn't have had it any other way.
Dick and Shirley Meek died from COVID-19 on January 16th. Dick Meek would have turned 90 3 days later, and Shirley Meek was almost 88.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Ford. The all-electric Mustang Mach-E and a 12-foot rocket take off. The rocket launches up into the atmosphere, while the all-electric Pony takes off toward the horizon at full speed. Visit Ford.com for a new perspective on range.
Hey there, it's the NPR Politics Podcast. I'm Susan Davis. I cover Congress.
And I'm Carrie Johnson, National Justice Correspondent.
And this is The Docket, our ongoing series on the podcast where we're looking at the big legal questions of the day and break down how they're shaping our world. And Carrie, today we're talking about what I think many people would consider a routine police practice, the traffic stop. This is basically when a police officer pulls over someone for some kind of traffic offense, blowing a red light, not stopping at a stop sign, maybe breaking the speed limit, but then they can use that stop to look for any other number of legal violations, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And in fact, there are a bunch of Supreme Court cases over the years in recent history that basically say that police can stop you for any reason they can articulate when you're driving. That came in a case known as Terry. Other cases have suggested that the law enforcement can stop you for any cause that they find reasonable, and that you basically have to obey a police order, or in many states you can be charged with a crime for not obeying the order, even though it doesn't make any sense to you as the driver at all.
What I think is so interesting about this issue is that it takes something that is seemingly low intensity, like, oh, you didn't use your turn signal. But we have seen in so many high-profile cases over the years that these traffic stops can escalate and become violent or deadly in a lot of cases. And you know, you hear from law enforcement who often will say that traffic stops are one of the sort of high intensity situations for them because you never know what's going on in that car or what could happen. And obviously we've seen in these cases in recent years that there's a lot of intensity of the person getting pulled over, especially if they're a person of color.
Yeah, so many times in these big Justice Department civil rights investigations of police departments and sheriff's offices, you'll find data that suggests that disproportionately, and sometimes by very high numbers, law enforcement is pulling over black and brown people a lot more often than it's pulling over white people, even though they find contraband less than or at the same rates by race. So this has been an issue the DOJ has been focused on over the years. And then, of course, Sue, as you mentioned, there are a number of really terrible and often tragic incidents that we've been seeing over the years. We had in Virginia the case of an Army medic, Karan Nazario, who was pulled over allegedly for not having proper paperwork for his new car.
How many occupants are in the vehicle?
What's going on?
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going on?
Open the door slowly. Step out. Open the door.
I'm not getting out the vehicle. What's going on?
Get out the car.
He basically waited to pull into a gas station where it was well lit instead of pulling over on the side of a dark road, and officers pepper sprayed him and beat him up even though he said he was complying.
Get your hands off me. I didn't do anything. Don't do that.
Sir, get out of the car now.
Don't do that.
Hey, get out of the car now.
Don't do that. I'm trying to talk to you.
Okay.
I'm trying to talk.
Get out. Get out of the car.
Can you please relax? Can you please relax?
Get out of the car right now.
This is not how you treat a vet. I'm actively serving this country, and this is how you're going to treat me? I didn't do anything. Whoa, hold on. What's going on? Hold on. Watch it.
Now he's suing, and one officer got fired. We're learning more and more about a case in Louisiana from 2019 involving Ronald Green. The body cam video from the law enforcement of the troopers in Louisiana only emerged recently after the AP reported a police officer on the scene denied that there was any for 2 years. And this is just a terrible scene where Ronald Green is screaming and crying, and he's scared. He wound up dead. He died there. And then, of course, we've got Sandra Bland from several years ago in Texas, who was pulled over for basically what she said at the time was a pretextual traffic stop. She challenged the police officer and didn't want to get out of the car. She was found dead in her jail cell in Texas a few days later. So